In this video, Christian's going to show you how to replace the front wheel hub bearing assemblies on a 2009 Jeep Commander. This is going to be the same for your like year Jeep Grand Cherokees.
Okay, so after you take off the wheel, you're going to want to take off the whole caliper. You can take off the caliper and then the caliper bracket, but at the same time you can also just take off the whole bracket with these two bolts on the back. They're 21 millimeters. But first of all, you want to decompress the brake pads so that when you're putting it back on, it goes in easier. You can use a flathead screwdriver, just putting it back here and just prying it back. And then you're going to see there's a lot of play in there. That means that you're good to go. Okay, after that, you decompress it. You want to come back here, take the 21 millimeter off, loosen it, because you're going to want to grab something to hang it, get it out of your way. Just zip tie it out of the way. A lot of people like to use hooks. I like zip ties. And then you just take the rotor out. After that, you have 3 bolts in the back. I can show you on a new one. It has 3 bolts in the back you have to take off. They're 15 mils. Once you take those off, then you could just lightly hammer this back and forth and it should just slip out. Also, you also have a 36 nut right here, or it's also a 1/7/16 socket.
Quick tip here, if you're going to be removing this, you're going to want to go ahead and get a wire brush in there and get as much grime off as possible. That way when you hit it with PV blaster or nut breaker, you're going to be able to get all of those threads clear before you pull all the varnish between those threads. It's going to be a lot easier if you do it this way. It takes a couple extra minutes. Spray the penetrant on there. It'll go a little bit further now because it doesn't have to get through all that rust and grime. It'll make it way easier to back that bolt out.
So after taking the caliper bracket off, you're going to want to take your sensor out. So there's a couple of little clips and pins you're going to want to pull out. One back here. I get some light. This comes out over here. There's one over here. And then you got the clip over here. Alright, so after pulling this clip out from right here, there's this little red tab right here. You can access it from the bottom or you can pry it from here, whichever comes easier. You want to push it out all the way. Comes out all the way, so it'll give you the opportunity and the clearance to push this button. And it's not a fun part because it's very corroded. It's been around heat. Well, that one came out pretty good. And now you have your wheel speed sensor out. You're ready to take your whole wheel hub out. Alright, so to take out the whole actual wheel bearing, you're gonna have to get these 15 millimeters in the back. Impact. And those are the 3 bolts. Now you just have to get your axle nut and the wheel bearing should come out. Last step, just take the axle nut, take it off. One quick tip, it's oval at the ends, so when you're putting it back on, it will screw on really easily, but then it hardens up, and that's basically what locks the nut onto the actual axle. After you take everything off, all you got to do is tap it over here and then tap it over here, and then it'll slightly pop off. You can also grab a big screwdriver and just slowly, you will see it come out. There we go. That's it right there. Just gotta grab your dust shield. You're gonna want to put that back. Got the old one out. You're gonna want to clean this whole area up and put some anti-seize so that next time you put this back on, it will go off easier. But it wasn't that hard this time. But it was always good to clean it up a little bit. Ideally, if you have anti-seize, you want to use some of it so that next time or the next person who owns this vehicle and needs to do wheel bearings can take it out. And don't forget your dust shields. So when putting it back together, make sure you put your heat shield, line it up correctly, slide it in. Line it up. Just put your bolts in the back. Put one bolt up here, another bolt goes over here, another bolt goes on the other side. It's like a triangle, 15 millimeters. And you want to hand tighten them before you hammer. After snugging them in, you just want to tighten it in. It's easier from rotating it, the wheel bearing side to side, so that the bolts tighten in really easier. And you want to just zap them in after. One quick tip, since this doesn't have the bolts that hold the rotors down, just put a lug nut to hold it down. Makes it easier to slide on. Boop. Grab your bolt. Just put your bolts in. This goes there. Bolt. Hand tighten it. Your other bolt and tighten it. Tighten it. So you're gonna want to route your wheel speed sensor and put it back in reverse, basically how you took it apart. Only goes one way in. Clip it back up. You heard the click. Alright, you're gonna want to put the little red safety piece back on so that your sensor doesn't come undone. Just pops like that. It's on there, and then just re-clip it. And last but not least, just put your axle nut. You should be all good to go. And just put the wheel back on, test drive it, make sure that no check engine light pops back on, and no noises. If so, then just jack it back up, but you should be ready to go.